Hello, everyone. My name is Marion. I'm a business strategy consultant at Art Infographic, and welcome to the second part of our presentation called Breaking the Small Business Mindset. Our theme of our presentation is very Japanese, and the reason for that is because after Second World War, a lot of business strategy consultants were brought into Japan to help businesses develop right from the ground up. And they needed to get people's skill sets to a level that they could produce and that the business would be doing well as quickly as possible. And these frameworks have been studied now by business strategy consultants for many years because some of those businesses actually grew to become very well-known brands, and they were so successful they actually got to a point where they were impacting the GDP of Japan. But what I really like about these frameworks and strategies is that they started out at ground level. Businesses that really had no real frameworks and they needed to have something set up within them that would work and would work quickly. And the Japanese really embraced that and they perfected it over time. And these are strategies that I've used in business for many years. But it has now become a culture. It has become basically the rule in doing business with me, and whether you are a partner of mine, whether we go into a joint ventureship together, whether you buy a franchise from me, or whether you're a client or a staff member. So these presentations are, they kind of meet various criteria, in that as a YouTube video, it will teach you things about small business and how to improve your way of doing business, but it also teaches clients and staff how to work within our business, and hopefully just create a very professional understanding between all the stakeholders and relationships that our business has. So we got to a point where we're talking about the very first framework that we adopt in our business, and that is called Kaizen. And Kaizen means improvement. In the Western way of thinking, it means continuous improvement. In the Japanese way, it just really means improvement, but it's become to be known as continuous incremental improvements throughout the day. So these changes that happen bit by bit, and the last slide we were actually talking about, and I'm going to go back there, was really about fear of delegation and the importance of financial literacy. So we talked about the fact that a lot of businesses focus very much on their marketing and sales, where the financial side of their business should be sitting at about 60 to 70% of their focus, and understanding their numbers and using the numbers to make decisions on their marketing and sales. And then also the other sidekick is for the HR. So a lot of small businesses focus on marketing and sales, and they really are unskilled and quite fearful about understanding the financial aspect of their business. So going back to our Kaizen, is that we encourage small business owners to do these incremental improvements on a daily basis, where they start looking at their corporate finance and understanding their there are three business statements, which is the income statement, also known as a P&L, their balance sheet, and their cash flow statement. And beginning to understand where their break-even point is, how their liquidity works, their revenue, doing sales and expense forecasts, and with that being able to make decisions around their marketing and not the other way around. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but corporate finance is really difficult. It is not easy. It is not easy. It takes a lot of work to really get a handle on it. I'm not going to lie to you on it, but it is important, and it's important for a business to know if they are going to become successful, profitable, and sustainable, and to make an impact, whether it is the ability to hire more staff on and be able to pay those staff and be able to improve circumstances in their community by having salaried workers within their company. I mean, that is important. For me, small business is really one of the ways to alleviate a country's poverty. And the more people that small business can hire, the more we can help people earn a living. So the way that you know that you are able to afford to hire more people into your company is if you understand your numbers. You need to understand your numbers. And that might be a horrible thing for you to think about. Like, a lot of entrepreneurs are very creative people. They are not numbers people. The idea of actually doing maths and accounting and financial stuff, they want to run for the hills. And on that, I can say to you, I've looked at it and I offer programs that help them step by step. We have a program that helps them with personal finance as a starting point. And that's for people that don't even have really income coming in. So if we can start setting up their systems so that when income comes in, then they understand how they can manage it and manage it well. So this personal finance program is perfect for people who are just starting out, and they, all the information on the internet is like, oh, okay, you need to budget this and you need to put aside this amount for this thing. But what if you don't have any income coming in at that point? So my program helps right from that stage to set those systems in place. So as incremental amounts of money comes in, you have systems and you know where you're headed. And that's really a very fundamental part of our financial literacy that we give our clients. In fact, we insist that they do a personal finance program with us before they become fully fledged clients working through their business accounting and their marketing of their business and that type of stuff. So that personal finance program is also relevant for people who have income coming in, whether they're entrepreneur and that money's coming in bursts of income. If they're a salaried worker, whether they're getting a set salary or if they're actually getting commission, and how to manage that. If they're running multiple businesses, and even if they are multimillionaires, like the concepts that are being taught there can be applied on every level. And the personal finance program actually teaches them fundamental concepts. They do exercises. We don't have any access to their personal financial information. We don't know their numbers. We don't know where they are at financially, but we provide them all the templates, all the guidance to help them set it up for themselves and to get a better handle of the things that they're doing. So just to give you an example, that is how I work as a strategy consultant. I give consultations personally, and I help small business owners to really understand how they can manage their small business better and to improve their bottom line and their profitability. So I do consultations on various subjects, from beginner stages right to advanced. So yeah, doing the personal finance is a good starting point, but obviously I've got a lot of experience with corporate finance. And coming back to this Kaizen, sorry, I'm just going to grab some water. Coming back to the Kaizen framework, this idea of continuous improvement. You can't run away from corporate finance when you are starting a small business. That is the thing that's going to bite you in your bum one day, is if you don't understand how to manage your money and how to interpret the information. And it's also what's going to make you very successful. It can make you very rich very quickly if you know how to interpret your numbers and how to use those to make decisions in your business. And the best way to do that is to improve your understanding on a regular basis, preferably daily, if not weekly. For myself, for the past year, I actually take 4 hours every Friday morning to learn corporate finance. So I've been going through the motions and learning the things and really trying to get a very good handle on it myself. And that's what you really need to do. You really need to put it into your diary. Make a plan for it. It needn't be 4 hours, and it needn't be the level of corporate finance that I'm studying, but you do need to understand your income statement. You need to understand how it is related to your balance sheet and how that's related to your cash flow statement and how to do your asset tests and litmus tests on these and to understand your liquidity and how to evaluate your company. Those kind of things are really important. You need to know your metrics, your growth metrics. You need to understand what those are. Is it profitability? Is it revenue? Do you understand what EBITDA is? Do you understand what CAC is? That's your customer acquisition costs. Or your ROAS, which is your return on ad spend. Do you know those metrics? Do you know even what those concepts mean? So every day or every week to kind of slot time in to actually learn this stuff. So Kaizen are scheduled moments to improve your work within a normal working day. The company that really made this famous is Toyota, and they had something called the Toyota Way. Now, the Toyota Way has got two sides to it. The one is respect for people, and the other side is continuous improvement. Now, the Toyota Way is one of the most powerful, it's hard to say that it's a framework because it's actually a set of frameworks that get used right from CEO level right down to factory floor workers. It's various processes that they've got on various levels, and this is called the Toyota Way. But continuous improvement, it goes across all of them. As you can see, the Toyota Way's got the two parts of it, the respect for people and continuous improvement. And when I go further into all these frameworks, you'll see how many frameworks the Toyota Way has, and yet this continuous improvement goes across all of them. It's so fundamental to success of business. And what it really speaks to is a few things. One is that you should be experimenting. You should be making mistakes. You should be trying new things every day, all the time, and as fast as possible. You need to have speed in your work and saying, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to give it a go. As an example, my previous part of this presentation, the audio wasn't that great. So I went to go and look at various applications that I've got on my computer to see if there's any way that I could improve the audio. I went onto AI and asked questions about the apps that I have. Unfortunately, my computer is not that strong. I don't have the software to make those changes, and I had to make an executive decision. Am I just going to go with the bad audio and just do it and then move on to the next thing? And I decided to do that. Like, I could be a perfectionist and go back and try and improve it and make it the best that it can possibly be and all of that, but given my time frames and given that it does the job that it needs to do, like, you know, you got to weigh that up and say, okay, I've done my very best in this and I am experimenting. I need to now go on to my next experiment. Like, that worked relatively well. I learned my lessons. Now it's time for me to try something new. And you do need to establish some of that speed in your work. Don't overthink your things. Like, say, okay, today, how many experiments am I going to do today? I'm going to try and do 2. I'm going to try and do 3. Like really try new things all the time and learn from what you've done. But the other side of this is this continuous improvement is you need to go back. You need to go back. You can't always be chasing the next shiny object. You need to go back to the things that you've created and go back and refine and study it. Really look at it and say, okay, I tried that experiment. What did I learn from it? What can I refine and improve on it? And to do it again and do it again. And each time to refine and improve what you're doing. So, okay, the first one, the audio wasn't that great. I learned my lesson from that. I went and tested different things with my laptop to try and improve the voice quality. And I've learned my lesson from it, and now I'm applying it to this. And that's very important, that you can go back and go back, repeat. Running a business is more about repeating activities than anything else. Like, in our previous talk, I mentioned things like the operations manual and the SOPs. And an SOP, I actually didn't mention it in the video, is a standardized operations procedure, which basically means that it's a how-to. It's a step-by-step how-to. So if I'm going to create YouTube videos, I have a specific way of doing it, and then I go and I put that down in writing, and then that becomes a standard operating procedure in my business. It becomes part of my operations manual. And if something had to happen to me and I had to land up in a coma for a week or 2, that one of my staff members can pick up that file, and it's like a wiki how. It tells you step by step how to create these videos. And a very big part of Kaizen is this standardization. If your business is not standardizing, I don't know if that's a word, but standardizing its processes, then it's not actually running as a business. It's really such a big part of what it means to run a successful small business, is to standardize, so have the routines, have the things that you do day in, day out. I know that sounds really boring, but that is how you succeed. You have to do the same things day in and out, and continuously improving, going back, saying, okay, how can we make this better? How can we refine this? How can we make it more efficient? And then the part that a lot of small business owners don't do is actually put it down in writing and put it into a document. And now, why is that important? I can tell you that operations manual holds the majority of the value of your business. At the 10-year mark, you should be at a point. So at the 3-year mark, you should be at the point where you are at least breaking even. But at the 10-year mark, you should be at a point where the value of your company is so good that you are sitting and weighing up, do I keep this company or do I sell it because I'm going to make a huge amount of profit? That is the 10-year mark of your company. That's where you should be at. And I can tell you that the majority of the value in your business, and it's not always the case, but very often the case, should lie in your operations manual. Because what that allows you to then do is to sell off many versions of your business. It means that you are able to franchise. It means that the next owner can buy your business and it can run without skipping a beat because it's got this how-to manual. It's like when you buy a vehicle and you've got that service book and it's got the instruction manual in the book, in the car. It's one of the most valuable items in your car, is this little booklet. If you see a light going off, then you know you can go and look, and it explains that light means this and this is happening. And it will tell you the pressure of your tires and what kind of fuel you need to put in your vehicle. So operations manual is something really worthwhile doing. And as a CEO or a founder of your business, it's a very good place for you to put a lot of your time and energy. Rather than selling your time for money or getting involved in the operations, rather hire people into the operations that are running your business, and then you manage them. You keep an eye on things. But your function as a CEO or founder is not to actually be it's so involved in operations. Okay, it is important for you to be on the floor, as it were, on the factory floor. It's important for you to really understand the operations. And the way to understand it is every once in a while you need to roll up your sleeves and do the actual work. But the reason why you are the CEO and founder is because of your brain matter. You need to be strategizing. You need to be building relationships. You need to be refining things. And you need to actually have that sort of objective overview of the whole business. And as the saying goes, you can't see the wood for the trees when you're in the trenches all the time. You need to be able to remove yourself from that. But then how do you keep yourself busy? Well, it's those important relationships. If you go into a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, and you go to a section that talks about, I've forgotten the name of the matrix, but there's a matrix there that talks about urgent and important. And when you actually analyze that correctly, you'll see that one of the most important, if not the most important aspects of being a CEO or a founder of a company is relationship building. So how well have you actually planned that in? Or are you so busy running around buying materials and products and sending emails to the marketing person to do your social media? How busy are you in with your operations of your business, and how busy are you in building really strategic relationships? Because I can tell you your business will be much more successful if you had to focus on strategic relationships. It's actually very, very important. So if you are not building strategic relationships, the other thing that you should be doing is working on your SOPs and your operations manual. Because with every page that you put in there, you are increasing the value of your business. And ultimately, one day you want to have a valuable asset. Like, I mean, there's that word that gets thrown around of business being an asset. If you look at the people at the top of the Forbes list, you know, the people that are the billionaires of the world, there's certain things that they make a lot of money on. And it would be real estate, or it would be stocks and bonds. But a lot of them make their money from business, and their business has a value. I mean, Elon Musk doesn't have billions of dollars in his bank account. The value of his business is worth billions, or his businesses. So what I can tell you is, once you've got a valued business, you are able to go to the bank and you can negotiate your personal value. You can get higher debt if you wanted to get higher overdrafts. You can get better credit cards. You can leverage money, because that becomes almost a status symbol, because your business, you've got something that's provably valuable, an asset. Now, if you had to buy an asset like, I don't know, a house really isn't completely an asset, but let's just use a house as an example. And if you were able to create documentation and it can increase your house by millions, why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you doing that for your business? Because you don't know. And I can tell you that focusing on your SOPs and your operations manual is one of the most important things that a CEO of a business should be doing. So I've kind of gone on tangent here, but let's go back to Kaizen and the principle of Kaizen. There's something called zero investment improvement, and that it kind of runs alongside Kaizen, in that a lot of these frameworks are very focused on not wasting. You know, the Western civilization is very wasteful with food, wasteful with resources. The Japanese model is not wasteful. It's actually really tries to use what's at hand. And this zero investment improvement is about utilizing existing resources. So you, as a small business owner, you've got to look around you and see, what do I have? What do I have here on hand? Rather than going out and just consuming and buying stuff online and getting it delivered, like, try and use the things that you've got first and foremost to use in your business. And you'll find that that brings innovation, it brings creativity, and just having this very clean lifestyle of not having excess, not having wastefulness. So you'll see that comes through on some of the other frameworks that I cover. So a good book to read is called The Toyota Way, 14 Management Principles from the World's Greatest Manufacturer, and it was written by Jeffrey K. Lacker. So Kaizen is quite in depth. With the Japanese culture, there's much more depth to the basic concept when you start really working with it and understanding it. And it has these parts to it. One of the first things is setting up a long-term vision. It really focuses on that. So how clear is your long-term vision? And have you given it a time frame? Like, I have a long-term vision. I've got a 10-year and a 5-year and a 3-year vision. And I actually spent an entire year focusing on those visions and visualizing them to a point where I actually have all the details in. Like, I know exactly when I arrive there on that day. I've got everything set up in my mind, exactly point by point of what it's going to look like and feel like. Because once you've got that long-term vision, what you can do is called reverse engineering. So you put that thing in place, and then you say, okay, in order for me to get there, what steps do I need to take to make sure that that happens? What skill sets do I need to put in place? And you start planning out a roadmap of how you're going to get from A to B, with your long-term vision being B. Okay, there's a lot of people that don't even have a destination. They just like, okay, tomorrow I'm just going to do the same thing that I did the day before, and just carry on doing this. And I can't think of a more boring way to go through life. It's I don't know. I don't know that if that's why I've become an entrepreneur over the years, but I can't just go in, day out doing the same thing unless I've got a vision. Like, having that vision, I realized that, okay, today I do need to come in and do these repetitive tasks because that's what it takes to make a successful business. But that's just part of a bigger picture. And I've got other things that I need to put in place. Like, I'm learning different languages. I'm building different skill sets. I've got different things that I'm working on in order to reach that end goal. So if you don't have that long-term vision, first of all, you should have one. And if that one isn't very clear, if you can't verbalize it, if you haven't visualized it to a point where you actually feel that you're there, your brain doesn't understand reality versus imagination. It feels like you're there already. And with that, it just makes your journey so much easier in planning on how you're going to get there. So you need to make it that crystal clear. And then having the roadmap, having this reverse engineering and having these milestones, having annual milestones, and then breaking those annual milestones down into monthly milestones, and then working on those. It's just very motivational. You don't feel like you're just on a treadmill, one step after the next. You can see how it fits into the bigger plan, and things happen much, much quicker for you. So setting up that long-term vision, engaging in step-by-step approach to challenges is also part of the Kaizen. We'll go deeper into that just now. And in searching for the root cause of the problems, the Japanese have something called the 7 whys. Yeah, I think it's called the 7 whys, yeah. And that's like who, what, where, when, why. Going through those questions when there's a problem to identify the root causes of the problems and then addressing those problems. And you'll see when they address problems, they address them immediately. And then engaging in ongoing innovation. And that's going back to the point of doing experiments, trying new things, making mistakes. You need to make mistakes. You need to make them often, and you need to make a lot of them. All the time. It's the only way you can learn, and it's the only way you can improve. And then, as mentioned before, I'm sorry about the dogs barking. As mentioned before, standardizing the tasks. It's the foundation for continuous improvement and employee empowerment. So those SOPs that I was talking about, those step-by-step guides, that also empowers your staff because they're not having to kind of figure stuff out. Everything's there for them. If a new staff member comes on board, you give it to them, they read it, they understand, okay, this is what I need to do in this company. It saves you. It sounds like a lot of work, but it actually saves you. It saves you in training. It saves you in mistakes. As much as I'm saying experiment and try things and make mistakes, you don't want unnecessary mistakes. You don't want people arriving and not knowing what to do, and you have to retrain every time. Like, you've got the documentation. Another side of Kaizen is growing leaders. And this is really interesting because they don't focus just on leaders within the company. They talk about internal and external customers. So that's also including their suppliers and the supply chain, and actually working with the suppliers and helping them improve. So it doesn't just stay within the company, which is really interesting. So when they talk about growing leaders, they talk about those kind of people as well. And growing leaders who thoroughly understand the work, who live the philosophy and teach it to others. And this philosophy is really about daily incremental improvement on past work done. Going back, revisiting past work, and improving it daily, like actually scheduling it in daily and going back and improving it. So there's another concept called Kaizen Blitz. Now, Kaizen Blitz is where you go and let's say you've got something coming up. You want to launch a product, or you want to attend or have a stall at an exhibition or a trade show. Or you want to run a marketing campaign, like anything like that, like a project, an upcoming project. And then there's something called a Kaizen Blitz or a Kaizen event. And this is very limited. It's really about focusing on that thing that you wanted to do, that project. And you get the leaders of that project, you bring them in on this meeting, and then you talk about what needs to be done and creating this project. It basically takes a week. It's put aside for a week, and if you can think about it in terms of, for instance, in military, it's like getting your generals together and then saying, okay, we're going to invade this area. And then, you put out the map on the table and mark off the things and work it out. And everybody kind of comes on board and comes up with a proper action plan of how they're going to do that. That's called a Kaizen Blitz. All right, and as I've put here, in the 21st century, business consultants in various countries have engaged in widespread adoption of this and sharing of the Kaizen framework as a way to help their clients restructure and refocus their business processes. So as you know, I am a business strategy consultant, and it's just really to show you here that I'm not the only one that's doing this. This is how our industry does it. We so admire the whole Kaizen process that it's something that has been intensely studied, and we apply it on all levels, whether it's medium business or very large corporations have taken this in and use it to become the multi-million or billion-dollar corporations that they are. And what I'm teaching you is how to apply these principles in your small business, whether you're a one-man show or you've got a small team of people with you. This continuous improvement and actually scheduling it in on a daily basis and saying, okay, right, so now what am I going to look back at and analyze and improve, and then most importantly, reapplying it, redoing it. You know, it's one thing to go back and say, okay, I've studied this and this is what needs to change, but you actually need to make the changes and then try it again. And then later on, you're going to go back to that again, improve it again, and then try it again. And over time, you're going to see that it just makes work so much easier for you. So when I was talking about getting your generals together and having a Kaizen blitz on an action plan of something that you really would like to attack, whether it's a marketing campaign, whatever it is that you want to do. This whole theory of having leaders that you can bring together is very important, because a lot of small business owners don't think in those terms. And you may recall from my previous presentation, they very often bring in a handful of staff members and they kind of run their business like a democracy. And you don't want to be doing that. You want to have levels in your business. And you want to have staff where you have autocratic leadership over those staff. Really, that you make the decisions. They can still work as a team with you. You can still collaborate with them. But at the end of the day, the decision ends with you. Then you have your managers and business partners that you have democratic leadership with. And those are the people, and you can have advisors on this level as well. You can have outsourced people and in-source people. And those are the people that you bring to the table with you. And you can do things like Kaizen blitzes with them to propel your business forward very quickly. So you need to think in terms of having leadership within your business. Not everybody can be a leader, and not everybody should be. So there's something called a leadership standard work framework. You can go and Google it. It's existed for years, and why small business owners don't understand that they need to understand their role as a leader. It's just crazy for me, but I do understand that they don't get taught this. So go and have a look. There's something called leader standard work. So all leaders should have this. There should be a definition of leadership that satisfies the needs of internal and external customers. And again, this Japanese framework talks about internal and external customers. It could be your suppliers, your supply chain, as well as advisors, outside relationships that you have, industry relationships, those kind of things. But you need to define that. You actually literally need to write a document, like a job description, that says to you, how are you going to appear as a leader? Now, I've explained to you our 3 tiers of leadership within our company. Like, you need to get quite clear about that and define leadership. And say, okay, this is how I'm going to arrive as a leader and what kind of leadership style I'm going to bring in when working with specific relationships. And a precise description of the business principles that leaders use to perform their work. And that is like with a job description, you'll have what's called the KPIs, your key performance indicators. And a good rule of thumb is to have 5 key performance indicators per customer segment that you are dealing with. So if you as a CEO are working with, so in my company, I work with top executives of medium and large businesses. and I do one-on-one consultations with them. So that's one customer segment that I work with. Another customer segment that I work with is I've got small businesses that are starting out and want to, or have been going for a while, and they're struggling and they want to improve their bottom line and their processes and do better. And I apply these frameworks and strategies from large corporations and teach it to small businesses that they can apply and start seeing benefits and differences in their business. So I work with small businesses as well. I also am looking to sell franchises of digital media house. I do advertising, copywriting. We do newsletter funnels. We do writing blogs, articles, copywriting for websites. My head keeps on going back to advertising, but yeah, we do Facebook adverts, we do organic advertising, all of that type of stuff, social media, all of that, and we're actually franchising it. So my relationships with franchisees. So I need to define how I appear as a leader when dealing with these very different customer segments, because the way that I talk and the way that I talk with my top executives, and I'm very much for going in-person meetings and dressing up in my corporate wear, wearing my high heels and having these high-level in-person meetings with those kind of people. Where I do consultations with small businesses, they're busy, they're on the run, we'll do something over the phone, over WhatsApp. So my leadership style changes a bit. And then the standard skill set to keep your business processes operating smoothly. You as a leader need the right skills. And there again, my consultations can come in. I can help you and I can develop you as a leader within your company. And that's just too much for this talk to be able to cover completely. The next point here is treating business partners as you would treat employees. And that is that point of challenging them to do better. So that's all your relationships, your business partners, your suppliers, all of those kind of outside relationships. You need to step up as such a strong leader in your company that you can lead them on what it is that you need. So you might right now, as a small business owner, have somebody who supplies you, but maybe they don't deliver items in time. You need to be able to set up a meeting with them, a face-to-face with them, and have your numbers, and show them how a delay is going to affect your cost of sales, how that's going to have a knock-on effect on paying somebody's salary. And then you say to them, I need you to help me figure this out. Let's figure out a way that we can do this so that it works better for both of us, and bringing them into proper negotiations and helping them to improve the way that they do business with you, instead of being at your supplier's whim and mercy, and instead of being defensive that they're not doing their business correctly. You actually sit down and you treat them like a partner, treat them like an employee, and help them improve how they do business with you. And then the next thing is very important, and it's actually quite interesting because it kind of flies in the face of another framework that we do, but you'll understand once we've covered that, is when you get to a point of making a decision, to implement the decision quickly. And here I'm coming back to the point of speed. You need to have speed in your business. Like I said before, running experiments, doing something new, trying something different, doing it all the time. You need to have the speed, and that once you make decisions, and the thing I really want to underline here is consensus based, and I'll talk about that consensus a little bit later. But once you've got a consensus based decision, that you run with it quickly, you implement it straight away. And that is called Nemawashi, that fast implementation. So going back to leader standard work, again, go and Google it, go and learn it, and understand what you as a CEO or a founder of your business need to be doing as a leader. All right, so going back to leader standard work, please go and Google it. You'll see that there's certain things that it's really a standard in the industry of what leaders need to be doing. And as you can see, I've got here managers, supervisors, directors, and executives. I don't have employees, I don't have freelancers, I don't have franchisees. These are the decision makers in the business, and they come together for Kaizen blitzes. And they can be internal or external, right? And these are some of the things that are kind of expected. There's conducting daily meetings with team members. Now, depending on who that manager or supervisor or whatever is, and the need to conduct meetings, it might be daily. In my case, it would be weekly. But having these regular meetings with team members, reviewing key performance areas, we've covered that. Key performance indicators, KPIs. If you don't know what a KPI is, then that's quite worrying. Because as a business owner, you should be really actually quite focused on KPIs. Developing process standards. And that doesn't just relate to your SOPs and operations manual, but to a huge extent it does. Observing processes in action. And that's really important. So that's where I'm talking about going on the factory floor, like rolling up your sleeves, getting your hands dirty, because then you've got a hands-on experience, and you need to do that quite regularly so that you can improve things, see where the problems are, and adjust and improve. Asking the questions, identifying gaps between the standard and the actual work. Coaching and developing staff. As mentioned in the previous presentation, your training and development program is actually a very big part of running a successful business. Maybe not in the first 3 years, but if you put it in place in the first 3 years, when it kicks in by the 3rd year, when you've got enough money to hire people on, it's going to pay dividends. It's going to pay for itself over and over and over again. So these are things that leaders do. They focus on these things. You need to have a coaching, a training, development program for staff. You need to work on that and put that together. That's what leaders do. You shouldn't be getting your hands as dirty as your staff members, because you as a CEO or a founder need to focus on these strategic things in your business, and then holding reports accountable. So that comes again to knowing your metrics, knowing what reports need to be brought in. And again, I help with all of this. I've got programs for this. Programs that really show you what kind of reporting structure you need and what kind of metrics you need to be monitoring. And then when it says here, holding them accountable, you need to be able to interpret those metrics and using those metrics to make decisions in your business. How many of you are doing that? How many small businesses understand this stuff? Right, so these are things that you as a leader in your business should be doing and focusing on. Right, so there's the other side where I'm finding it very frustrating talking to small businesses, and they think that when you work an 8 to 5 or a 9 to 5 with a boss, you work 8 hours a day. But when you open up a business, it becomes almost like a side hustle, and you don't really have to put in 8 hours of work. And for me, that's just mind-blowing. Okay, I've mentioned that for the first 3 years, it's kind of standard that you're not going to be making any money. So don't you want to shorten that time? And the way that you shorten that is by doubling down. Instead of putting 8 hours of work in, you put in 16 hours of work, and then hopefully in 1.5 years' time, you're going to be making good money. Like this whole 4-hour work week, it doesn't work. This opening up an e-commerce store and a drop shipping, whatever, and not putting in the time and the effort to really run your business and understand the stuff behind your business, you're going to maybe have a little bit of success, and it will be a flash in the pan because you don't have the foundations to keep your business going. And those foundations are based on hard work. Running a business is actually hard work. You need to put in the time. As I've mentioned now with leadership, and these are the basic things that leaders should be doing. And I can assure you that you are only really probably observing processes in action out of this whole list. Have you put together SOPs? Have you put together KPIs? Have you put together a coaching and development program for taking on more staff? Because that's really what you should be focusing on. And I can tell you, if you really did that, you would be busy. You would be spending 8 hours a day in your work. Do you have sales and expense forecasts? Get busy. Get busy doing that. You can't sit back and just think, I'm going to post some stuff on social media once every 2 days, and that's going to make my business successful. It's not going to work. You need to have the foundations of business. And what I'm teaching you here is stuff that they teach over years and years of doing an MBA. And even then, the actual application, I'm teaching it a little bit more like, do this stuff. I'm not teaching you textbook stuff. I'm telling you what works and what doesn't work. Do it. Do the work. But this idea that I can kind of open up like a little bit of a side gig and it's going to bring in a couple of, no, put in the time and you will see the results. So you need to have a dedication and a strong work ethic. It's needed. So I'm going to go into this a lot further with the next framework that you talk about called Gambaru. And Gambaru, it really talks about that work ethic and working hard and committing to doing your best and seeing something through from the beginning to the end. But this Kaizen framework that I've just mentioned to you, we're really scratching the surface here. We're really just starting on this because Kaizen, as I said, the continuous improvement goes across all of the other frameworks, and you're going to see how they all tie in together and why this is such a beautiful approach to doing business. It is so strong. It is really, you talk about professional, this is professional. This is how you run a professional business, is by applying these kind of frameworks. And you're going to see that it all ties together very, very well once we're able to cover all of the subjects. So I just wanted to thank you very much for your time in listening to this section of the talk, and look forward to having you on the next part of the presentation. Have a good day.